Welcome to Kathryn Raaker's World. Innovation, culture, adventure, fashion and health, artists, destinations, traditions. This is Kathryn Raaker's World.
Hi, this is Kathryn Raaker of Kathryn Raaker's World and our syndicated TV show, and Let's Just Talk, our syndicated radio show. We're on all over the world, and we're excited about our first guest, Dr. Alon Ben-Meir. And Dr. Meir is a retired professor of international relations who was formerly at the New York University Center for Global Affairs and serves as a senior fellow at the World Policy Institute. Dr. Ben-Meir is an expert on the Middle East and West Balkan affairs, international negotiations, and conflict resolution. In the past 2 decades, Dr. Ben-Meir has been directly involved in various back-channel negotiations involving Israel, its neighboring countries, and Turkey. And I want to welcome him to our show today. It's an honor to have you. And I'll tell you, I loved living in Turkey. I lived in Ankara.
Oh, it's a great city. I visited Ankara scores of times, so I know exactly what you mean. It's a beautiful place.
Well, we're going to be also talking about your short book entitled A Historic Point of Departure, Bringing the Israeli-Palestinian Conflict to a Close and Creating a New Regional Geopolitical Order.
Geopolitical order, yes.
Political order. And so does that mean 2 states within one country, Doctor?
No, the two separate independent states living side by side. They, in fact, do exist today. They coexist, both sides. And what my policy, my approach has been for many, many years, since I, in fact, wrote my first book, which was called Imperative and Choices. That was, in fact, my dissertation, going back more than 40 years now. And even then, I've advocated the indispensable need for the creation of a Palestinian state as an ultimate solution to end for once and for all the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And I still hold to this position. And in fact, what happened in October of 7, this is where the book comes from, a historic point of departure, because what I saw happen is exactly when not a prophet, but I anticipated that to happen. I wrote about it a year before that, September of 1822, that something of this magnitude can happen if the Israelis do not change their policy in connection and relation with the Palestinians. So what happened in October came no surprise to me, albeit the magnitude of what happened, was a surprise. And certainly the Israeli retaliation and what we've been witnessing since the war started created a new paradigm. And this is where this will come. That is, what is historic point of departure? I maintain that because of Hamas's attack, savage attack, and Israel's massive retaliation, which now killed nearly 36,000 Palestinians and lay half of Gaza in ruin, has created a new paradigm, which is consistent with my approach going back decades. That is, it is impossible to go back to the status quo ante that existed before October 7, 2023. In my view, this is an opportunity to resume serious negotiation between Israel and the Palestinians to achieve the final, in my view, the only practical, durable, sustainable solution, with its two-state solution, living side by side in peace, in harmony. They can grow together and live in a state where they can, in fact, change entirely. They can bring together a new renaissance, in my view, to the Middle East.
You know, one of my questions, I think, is after being there, and you know, I talked to you before the show about being in Israel, I saw, you know, Arabs and Jews living side by side in
Yes.
every town. And I didn't fear anything. Right after that, they started discovering tunnels underneath, you know, in so many different places. It can't, in your opinion, it can't be Hamas that is ruling the Palestinians. It needs to be, don't you think, a Palestinian leader that can do this side by side?
Well, it's a quite complicated. What happened is the Palestinian, Gaza, and much of the West Bank was under the Palestinian Authority. And in 2005, Israel decided to withdraw from Gaza and dismantle all the 9 settlements that were built in Gaza. Unfortunately, Prime Minister Sharon at the time did not make any arrangement, any security arrangement to follow the Israeli withdrawal. As a matter of, after that, Hamas, which was organized by that time, fought the Palestinian Authority in Gaza. The Palestinian Authority forces were defeated, and Hamas took over Gaza since 2007. So Hamas is separate from the Palestinian Authority. They have a different position toward Israel. Their platform called for Israel's destruction, no negotiation, whereas the Fatah, that is the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, have accepted Israel's right to exist, which was based on the Oslo Accord that were signed in 1993 and 94. So there is a significant difference between the two of them, and not only toward Israel, but also between themselves. That is, Hamas and the Palestinian Authority do not see eye to eye. And so today the fight is, of course, against Hamas, not against the Palestinian Authority, albeit there is significant presence of Hamas in the West Bank, and the violence in the West Bank, specifically last year, has escalated to a point where 500 Palestinians were killed in the West Bank alone. So the tension there is great. So the solution today is not just defeating Hamas, that is not allowing itself to reconstitute itself politically to be the governing authority in Gaza. Having said that, Israel will not be able, not now, not for the foreseeable future, to eliminate Hamas as a political movement. That is, even if Hamas eventually be destroyed in Gaza, they will still have the sufficient political will and political presence, and they will remain organized as a political body that Israel simply cannot defeat, which means a solution to the current crisis would require a completely different approach. That is, Hamas, having been basically destroyed so far in Gaza, may well wake up, in my view, to realize that Israel is a fact of life, that it cannot be simply wished away. And Israel, at the same time, must also come to the conclusion that the Palestinians are facts of life, that it simply cannot be wished away. As such, they need to come to that conclusion and realize that the only durable solution is to sit down, negotiate a peace accord, and it's going to be complicated. It's going to be extremely difficult because there is so many claims and counterclaims. But in the final analysis, no matter how difficult the negotiation will be, no matter how intractable the various conflicting issues will be, like refugees, future of Jerusalem, security, territory, and all of that, ultimately, they've got to live together because they already coexist. They have no place to go. Neither can get rid of the other. Since they coexist already, they must choose. Do they want to kill each other for another 75 years? Or do they want to find a way out and live together in harmony as good neighbors.
Well, my question is, why can't we find somebody within the Palestinian Authority that's a great leader and maybe do something with that? Because I think with Hamas, so many people, probably, I'm not sure in Israel at this point, but how can you negotiate, excuse the expression, with a terrorist organization as Hamas is?
It is a terrorist organization. So unfortunately, there is currently no leadership within the Palestinian community, neither in Gaza or in the West Bank. Mahmoud Abbas is not just old, so to speak, but he's corrupt, ineffective. He's been clinging to power for the last 2 decades or more, refuses to have any new election. But that doesn't mean that that Mahmoud Abbas is going to last forever. Nature also can take its course. So the Palestinians need a new leadership. So do the Israelis, mind you. As long as Mahmoud Abbas is in power, as well as Netanyahu is in power, there will be, I repeat that, there will be no progress toward serious negotiation that could lead to two-state solution. So you need a leadership on both sides. But then you have, of course, the other party, which is Hamas. Will Hamas come to the conclusion that they have no choice, like I said earlier, to sit down and negotiate with Israel? In my view, this may take a little time, but having experienced the horror that's been inflicted on Gaza in the last 8 months, they must realize by now that challenging Israel is a lost cause. Having said that, I want to say something very important to keep in mind. Israel will win every single battle against any of the Arab countries, and even Iran. But talking about Hamas, Israel can go to Gaza, as it has in the past, and will call mow the lawn, trying to reduce their potency as a military force. It can win every single battle against Hamas, but it will never win the war. And Hamas will be losing every single battle against Israel and the war, but they will remain a force to be reckoned with. That is the reality today. And both sides need to understand that. So Netanyahu is corrupt to the bone, in my view. He does not want to see a two-state solution. He's been undermining that all the time since he came to power in 1996. I met him at the time in 1996 after he was elected, and I asked him specifically about the Oslo Accord. And he said, my mission will be to destroy the Oslo Accord. The Oslo Accord was supposed to lead to the solution, the permanent solution, as it's a two-state solution. And he managed to do just that. Basically, he destroyed the Oslo Accord. And in the last 16 years, almost 17 years that he's been in power, with a little interruption in the middle, he has done everything humanly possible to prevent the Palestinians from establishing a state of their own. And one thing very important to keep in mind, Netanyahu himself has made it possible for Hamas to grow and prosper. He was the conduit for the hundreds of millions of dollars that have been flowing from Qatar and other places to Hamas. He knew very well that Hamas has been spending more than 60% of the billions of dollars they've been receiving, building tunnels, acquiring weapons, manufacturing missiles and rockets. They knew only do too well. But what he said openly to his own, followers, those of us who want to prevent the establishment of a Palestinian state should support Hamas, because Hamas and the Palestinian Authority do not see eye to eye. And as long as they fight, we are the winners. Let them fight, and we will win, because this way we can prevent the establishment of a Palestinian state. Basically, that's what I'm saying. We have to go back to what happened in October 7 and why I was saying that it's a point of departure that need to be exploited and to be taken advantage of at this juncture.
Do you have a website, Doctor?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Would you like to give us that wonderful website before we take a break?
Yes, www.alonbenmeir.com.
At what again?
Same my name, www.alonbenmeir.com. My
Okay,
name with the hyphen.
with the
Between
hyphen,
within Ben and Meir, there's a hyphen, middle hyphen.
.com.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be right back on Kathryn Raaker's World, and let's just talk after these important messages. We are back on Kathryn Raaker's World with the most distinguished guests I've had in a long time, and that is
Thank you.
Dr. Alon Ben-Meir. And we've been talking about not only his book, A Historic Point of Departure, bringing the Israeli-Palestinian conflict to a close and creating a new regional geopolitical order, but we've been talking about what's going on right now in Israel. But I want to talk, Doctor, about what's happening here in the States and how is that affecting what's going on in Israel. And will they come to the table ever?
Well, what is happening in the States, specifically the various demonstrations in many universities, really will not have any significant effect on Israeli policymakers. What's happening here, what they've been watching, as a result of the Israeli invasion of Gaza and the massive death and destructions that happened, young students are looking at it and say this is way disproportionate to Hamas's savage attack of October 7th. So basically, everybody forgot the Hamas's attack that resulted in the slaughter, savagery of 1,200 Israelis, and then abducted also on top of that 250 Israelis. Half of them basically been released. Some one quarter died in captivity. So there's still remaining some 100 hostages today. But I just want to allude before to say that, so there is no clear impact. What I'm more concerned about is how the Republicans are playing this against the Democrats. Just to give you the latest, I think, revolting example. Speaker Johnson decided to invite Prime Minister Netanyahu to address joint session of Congress. To me, this is nothing but a sinister political ploy in order to embarrass President Biden. President Biden and Netanyahu do not see eye to eye at this juncture. Senate Majority Leader Schumer was clear. He even called for a new election in Israel. And then he finally conceded and agreed with Johnson to invite Prime Minister Netanyahu to come and address the joint session of Congress. To me, to do so at this juncture, it's ill-fated. It should not happen. And to give Netanyahu to come to this kind of honor, I think it's disgracing Congress. It should not happen now. At a minimum, there should be some kind of ceasefire. He cannot come and talk to Congress when the killing and the death and destruction taking place in Gaza. So he should not be here unless there is a ceasefire that is holding. So that's on the side. So as far as the Americans concerned, my concern is not only student demonstration, which have subsided just about everywhere, but there's still the ongoing political posturing of the Republican versus the Democrat, using the Israeli situation, the Republican in particular, to try to demonstrate that President Biden was not effective in trying to contain this particular terrible conflict.
Right. Let me ask you this question. One of the things that I would love to see is people really understanding and educating not only congressmen and young congressmen and senators, no matter what party they are in, that understand that the United States is a republic, not a democracy. And also understanding world other countries. I was lucky enough to be in a lot of countries, doctor, and I learned the culture, the politics, and whatever, okay, of that country. And I don't think that people really understand what's going on. I mean, they see these horrific pictures, right? And they don't understand the real politics of Israel and how Israel was founded in 1947. So I think we need to be more educated in our schools and to the younger generation so that they really understand the political situation in different countries and understand what our country means.
Mhm.
Would
Well,
you
I mean,
agree with me? Would you agree with me on that?
well, I mean, you're saying the United States is not a democracy. So a republic is a democracy. It can be a republic as well as democracy. Is it a perfect democratic form of government? No. And the reason being is when you have an electoral college, you have a president, consecutively, Hillary Clinton and now Biden won Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, but she lost the election because of the electoral college. To me, a democracy, majority of the people vote for the president, not electoral college. And that is the flaw, major flaw in my view, in American democracy. But America is a democratic country. It has been as such. It is admired as such. It's the dream of millions and millions of people to come to the United States, still even today. And we should take pride in the fact that we're still a democratic country where you and I can say anything we want to say without fear that somebody can come and lock me up because what I've just said about the Democrats or Republican.
Let's talk about your book a little bit. We didn't get a chance to do that. And tell me, what are the key points that you want to bring across with the new book?
With the new book, as I said, given what happened, that is October 7 and subsequently the Israeli invasion, as I said, we cannot go back to what happened before 67, which means the two-state solution, in my view, came back to the table. President Biden himself said it time and again. Many scholars, many politicians in the Middle East, in the Arab world have said, time has come because we cannot go back to sit down and negotiate the inevitable. And the inevitable is two-state. No one, anywhere in the world could come and say to me or to write about it, there can be other practical, sustainable solution. It just does not exist. The one-state solution will not ever happen because if a democracy, the Palestinian will win almost an outright majority. There are 7,400,000 Palestinians today in Gaza, in Israel proper, and in the West Bank. And there are 7,300,000 to 400,000 Israelis. So that's basically equal number. And the birth rate of the Palestinian is a bit faster than the Israelis. So if there's a one-state solution that people advocate, means that the Palestinian will be able to form the government. And that is something for Israelis a completely non-starter. It was created as a Jewish state. They want to maintain the Jewishness of the state, and that one-state solution is not acceptable. The second option is what exists today, continuing the occupation. Well, we know the result of the continuing occupation. It didn't work. 76 years later, there is violence, there are wars, people are dying on both sides, and that is clear proof. The occupation was a dismal failure. It just won't work. So these are the two options. That is, for Israelis, the current status is acceptable. For them, they have two sets of laws. One applied to the Israelis, even to those in the West Bank and the settlement, and one for the martial law for the Palestinians. This is not sustainable. Basically, Israel is maintaining or seeking a permanent enemy in order to justify the occupation. That's the problem I see. And this is very dangerous because just imagine, Israeli child grows up learning to hate the Palestinians. Think of what I'm just about to tell you. 80% of all Israelis were born under the occupation. That is since 1967. And 90% of all Palestinians were born since 1967. So imagine the vast, vast majority of both sides live with the occupation. For the Israelis, the occupation became normal. For the Palestinians, it was an oppressive for 4 generations. This is not sustainable. So the one state is not sustainable. Occupation is not sustainable. They are stuck. Nobody can get rid of the other, period. No one can show me how they can be ethnic cleansing or genocide. It will not happen. So they need to face the bitter reality. And reality is we coexist. Now they have to settle various conflicting issues, which are the Palestinian refugees. I've advanced in my writing in several books that can be resolved amicably and be accepted by all sides. Security arrangements need to be worked out between Israel and the Palestinians. As a matter of fact, even today, they collaborate between the Palestinian Authority and Israel on all security matters. Then the question of borders, that to be negotiated based on some kind of land swap. And then the future of Jerusalem ought to be a capital that the Palestinians have right to it as well. I am not suggesting in my writing, in my approach to this is that Jerusalem remains united exactly the way it is. And if you go to Jerusalem and you see it today, 300,000 Palestinians living mostly in the east side, and 400,000 Israelis, 450 living on the west side, they intermingle, they go to each other's side. The Palestinians in Jerusalem, they don't need a visa. They can travel all over Israel. So Jerusalem itself can be the microcosm of Israeli-Palestinian peaceful coexistence. Jerusalem itself. So here you have this fact. You cannot change these facts. They are on the ground. Israel has the holiest shrine in Jerusalem. The Palestinian, the Arab, the Muslim has the 3rd holiest shrine in Jerusalem. They sit juxtaposed to one another. Nobody can change that reality short of a religious war. So here you have these facts, and now you need leadership to acknowledge these facts on the ground and say, enough is enough. We don't want to fight another 4 generations. We don't want to raise the next generation to be warriors. We want to raise the next generation to be engineers and builders and astronomers, because both people together, just imagine the human resources of Israelis and the Palestinians. It is hard to exaggerate. When I say if they make peace, they can bring a new renaissance, not just to Israel and the Palestinians, but to the entire Middle East. And this is the reason, mind you, why some of the Gulf states like United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, decided to make peace with Israel. They now with Saudi Arabia would like to make peace with Israel, but they want first a solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And the last point I need to make in this connection, Iran is the elephant that exists there. The Arab states are terrified. The Gulf, all of them, none of them are Sunni states, with the exception of Iraq, which has a majority Shia. So they are terrified of Iran. Iran also is the enemy of Israel. So the Arab state, the Muslim state, see Israel as a barrier, as the one that can stop Iran. Hence, they want close relationship with Israel. And so in my book, I'm suggesting, since the Saudis would like to have security guarantee from the United States, since the United States presence in the Middle East is massive in Qatar, the 6th fleet in the Mediterranean, the 7th fleet in the Arabian Sea, the largest military bases in Qatar, have forward forces in equipment in Israel itself. So the United States can take advantage of the current situation and create that security crescent going from all the Gulf states to the Mediterranean. That will include the 6 Gulf states, Jordan, Palestine, if it's good, Israel, and Egypt. That is the ring, security ring that can freeze Iran in its place. This is what we need to see happen. It's doable. Biden is talking about it. Every single Arab country, every leader, I spoke with, and I have excellent friendship with just about every ambassador from every country in DC and in New York. And they talk about this prospect, prospect of peace, comprehensive Arab-Israeli peace, and the creation of this security crescent extending from all the way from the Gulf to the Mediterranean. It is doable. And the only missing link is the establishment of a Palestinian state.
And on
that's
that
what we have.
note, we have really run out of time.
Yes,
So
thank you for having me. All the best. Thank you. Bye now.
and would you give your website one more time, Doctor?
Yeah, www.alonbenmeir.com.
And thank you so much for joining me today on Kathryn Raaker's World and Let's Just Talk. Don't forget to go to our websites at letsjusttalk.com and Kathryn Raaker, so I'm going to spell that, KathrynRaakersworld.com. We'll see you soon. Thank you.